Allison, I want to start off talking about the catalyst for your journey and essentially what changed the trajectory of your life, because I think a lot of women who are listening to this podcast can relate to what you were going through as a young woman. So you found out that you had PCOS. You didn't have a period for years, if I'm not mistaken. And that kind of changed everything. So can you take us back to that time? What were the symptoms you were having? Did you get diagnosed officially? Kind of walk us through that.
I love that we're in a safe, like woman, led space here because I do like starting my story with this idea that I had my period in sixth grade and that it never came back. But sometimes I have to tweak that, intro with my audience. But that's really what happened. I had my first period at 13 and I grew up here in Houston, Texas, standard American diet, formula fed. My mom wore all the synthetic perfumes. I mean, I was like an endocrine disrupted child. I think I had body odor at like 5. My mom was like, what's happening? Like soy formula. I'm like, no wonder. So anyway, get to high school. My mom's like, I know that you love not having your period, but something is probably off. So let's go see like a, endocrine expert here in Houston. We have access to some of the best facilities here. So we did, and they did a quick sonogram that revealed that I had one of the worst cases of polycystic ovarian syndrome that they had ever seen in their clinic. And they treated thousands of women. So here I think I was 13 at the time, and I had thousands of cysts on my ovaries, like covered. You couldn't even see my ovaries. I was told that I would never be able to conceive naturally. And I didn't have the typical like 40 facial hair. They used to say like there's like 4 Fs or something. Fat. I mean, it's not PC, but there were 4 Fs. Okay. And I wasn't that, but I wasn't having my period. I had a lot of acne, and they put me on birth control indefinitely and basically said, you can fill this prescription, every year and then come back to us when you're ready to get pregnant. So I kind of owned that. I was like, okay, I'm the girl that won't be able to get pregnant naturally. I am the girl with PCOS. I am the worst case. This was before I really understood how much our thoughts and neuroplasticity can affect our health. And so I just identified with this. So fast forward to college and I start coming down with these mysterious symptoms, not even thinking about this other diagnosis with my hormones, correct? So I'm like, I'm really achy in my shoulders. I'm now at University of Texas at Austin. This is where I met Kelly, my current co-founder and best friend. And she's watching my body crumble. And at first I started with like physical therapy and rolfing. And then I'm on like twice daily hydrocodone and antidepressants and muscle relaxers, sleeping pills. I mean, steroid injections in my lower spine. I am in so much pain. I'm registered as a student with disabilities in college because I traveled all over seeing the top experts from trigger point therapy in Pittsburgh to juvenile arthritis clinic in White Plains, New York. I was like this ever growing, file of like EKGs and MRIs and drugs and CAT scans. And I just remember thinking like, I cannot tell my story one more time to one more doctor. Like, can everyone just get in a room and talk about me at one time? Like, so my aunt comes along because the last thing I heard was this looks like early stage MS. And that's where I was just like, my life is crumbling. I mean, I looked amazing. Like you would never know. I was fit. I was, from the outside seemed like everything was fine. I'd been on 2 rounds of Accutane, so my skin's glowing. I mean, I was just like this internal mess that looked fine. So, it's like we can never judge people by the way that they look, something that I've really learned through my experience. But so yeah, my aunt comes along and she starts talking to me about toxins. Okay. So this is 2001 and no one talked about toxins. And she explains this idea about how our bodies are designed by our creator. They can run in the direction of healing. If we would just get out of their way, they know how to heal. If you have a scab and you pick it every single morning, it's never going to heal. But if you leave it alone in the right conditions, it'll heal beautifully and you'll never even notice. Okay. You don't have to do anything. She said, so the things that you're putting in, on and around your body, drop by drop, are creating this kind of low level chemical soup in your body that has become higher and higher and higher, and you're at spillover because we all reach spillover at some point, whether it's allergies or asthma or cancer, or we didn't just wake up with it. It forms over time. So I'm like, what are you talking? No one has ever said anything like this to me. And she says, I would like to see a 3-day diet diary, what you typically eat in 3 days. And then she started asking me things like, have you recently moved or remodeled? What kind of products do you use in your hair, on your body to clean your dishes, your laundry? And at first I'm like, this is insane. No one everyone else around me is using these things. Everyone seems fine. But then we're like, well, what's fine? Right? Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And so I almost felt this like new hope rising in me. Like, well, wait, this is the first time someone has ever presented an idea that I can actually change something about my health. Like there was this fresh, perspective. And so I did. I got rid of my Splenda, my 100-calorie packs. I started actually looking at ingredients instead of nutritional facts, looking at fat and calories, and got rid of the Windex, like stopped painting my own room with conventional paint every time we moved into a new room in college. And all of a sudden I'm noticing my symptoms are subsiding like almost immediately just with these changes, like body care products, hair products. So I'm now intrigued, and Kelly is my roommate. She's intrigued. So graduation is approaching, and we're like, we're going to go out and live in the hill country with Marilee. She's in the hill country of Texas, actually where the Texas floods were. And she has her own health journey, basically had 2 catastrophic events in her life that led her to where she is today. The first was she avoided a kidney transplant in her 20s by learning about using food as medicine. So that really woke her up to the nutrition side. And then later on, her son in the 90s was catastrophically injured by a banned pesticide called chlordane while he was at school, was told he would never recover, find him a padded room, keep him comfortable. The brain cannot regenerate. His immune system is way too damaged. And sure enough, she was like, thank God you're not God. I respectfully decline this prognosis. And so she proceeded to basically remove every stressor in his life, not only diet, because she had already learned that part, but she started realizing he was reacting to every little thing in the environment. And she had this aha moment when she took out her last box of toxic cleaning products, and he was able to actually stay in the house for the first time because they were living out in cots outside. He was so sensitive. He was like 9 years old. So she watched him heal, basically reverse through the autism spectrum. He was the first homeschool child to get into the Naval Academy. It was just incredible. So I entered her home in this is the environment in which I am coming into in 2008. And Kelly's coming in with me as well. And for 8 weeks, we ate real food. And I can honestly say when I got to Marilee's, I didn't realize that I had never gone an entire full day of my life only eating real food. I had always had some sort of processed packaged food, even if it was through my mom's breast milk or something, So that alone was incredible. But then all the synthetic fragrances that I never even knew were affecting me. Marilee always says, you don't know how much these products are undermining our health until you get rid of them. So it's just this idea of stop picking the scab, get out of the way, So that summer really changed everything for me. I went back to that doctor 9 months later. My husband made me do it. We were engaged at the time. I was totally off medication, no more pain. I was a completely new person. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to get a sonogram. That just makes it so real. Like, I'm sure my sister's still there. Gone. They're gone, guys. I mean, it was wild. The doctor comes in. He'd been too busy to see me that day. He's holding my sonogram from 6 years prior and my new one. And he said, what did you do? And I said, well, respectfully, I got off birth control. I haven't been on it now in a year because it wasn't part of Marilee's protocol. And I stopped using all of these endocrine disrupting toxins that were in my things that I never even thought about, my body soap, my detergents, and I'm eating real food. And he said, well, keep doing what you're doing. And, I ended up coming and speaking at PCOS support groups, and his nurse practitioner calls me a few years later and heard my podcast and apologized to me for telling me that I could never do anything to heal. It was such a sweet redemption story. And they ended up, they have an entire lifestyle wing of their practice now because we've learned so much. And at the same time, there's also doctors that have learned nothing and that are still prescribing birth control to women without telling them that their lifestyle can actually take them so far, So, I woke up and I had a natural period when I was 25. 13 years later, basically, from my first one. And I've tried 3 times and gotten pregnant 4 times. We had a surprise baby. That's really my story. It's like when we shoot for the stars, like the moon's that gets thrown in, I never went out to heal my endocrine system. I went out to get out of pain and to clean up my life and to basically get out of misery so I could just function on a day-to-day basis. And then my whole body starts coming into alignment. And so it really shows just how much these products are affecting our endocrine system.
It's so interesting. I mean, my story was not as intense as yours, but similar, like horrible periods on birth control since I was 13, got off. It got incredibly worse. That's when I met Kea and my husband and realized, oh, there's this whole world of food as medicine, toxins, and similar to you, like reversed everything. And I have no cramps every month. But, it's so interesting because like you said in your story, a lot of women, even now, like so many people still use fragrance, like family members. I have to tell them like, hey, can you not like spray so much? Just it gives me a headache because when you're not around it, you notice the impact, but people don't realize how it's impacting them. So I'm just curious because you've done so many podcasts, you talk to so many people. If someone's listening, they're like, Allison, I feel fine. Like I don't have PCOS. Yeah, my PMS is normal. Maybe they have cramps and they think that's normal. Like, how do you encourage them to really think and make this switch? Do you start somewhere smaller and then you progressively move? Because it's always so interesting for me to chat with people and try to get them on the path slowly.
What I like to tell people is these toxins are affecting all of us, right? And some of us have really strong constitutions. Some of our endocrine pathways are naturally clearer and stronger because our detoxification pathways are stronger. Mine is not. I am, homozygous SNPs on my MTHFR, and if you've already zoned out, don't worry about that. But basically, I have weak detox pathways. So I have to go the extra mile. But honestly, I look back and I'm like, thank you, God, that I was able to feel these symptoms earlier on in life, because 1 in 3 women have an endocrine related cancer. 1 in 2 men in their lifetime will have an endocrine related cancer. I mean, breast and prostate and ovarian, like we think about all these things that we are affected by, or even just the person that says it doesn't affect me, but then how do you know how you're going to handle menopause? It seems like everyone around me is saying, oh, well, I'm in my late 40s. I got to prepare for menopause. I'm like, no, you don't. Menopause should not be horrible. And when you're telling me that you have horrible cramps every month, that is common, but not normal, And so what are we feeling good? How many prescription drugs are you on? I want to respectfully, gently ask someone these questions. And even though we have such an incredible medical system, 2 to 3% of our healthcare is for emergencies, and we are the best of the best. But the rest is for everyday care, and we're one of the worst in the world. I mean, we rank one of the very lowest, like highest in mortality rate, lowest in maternal care and infant survival. I mean, that's wild, guys. And so what I want to say, 54% of children have chronic illness. So I think that we're not as healthy as we think we are. And for someone that feels like they're not dealing with these things, I would probe a little bit and say, do you have like an afternoon slump where you feel like you need to have coffee? If that's happening in your teens and in your 20s and 30s, imagine what that looks like later on. So, and again, we don't wake up with cancer. It forms years and years and years. So the best way to look at health is through root cause and prevention. And that is just not how our healthcare is set up to be. It's not the people, it's the system. And we cannot be victims of that system where we only are fixed once our sirens are, blaring.
I kind of think about us folks with highly sensitive bodies as like the canary in the coal mine situation, where maybe we get hit a bit harder or earlier. But to me, the more sometimes dangerous thing is folks who it's more insidious, like they can't gain weight. And then over years, things just, they compile and it turns into something huge down the road, or they're like, yeah, I'm just tired all the time. So, I want to ask a question, which I have a lot of friends who have PCOS and they have missing periods. And every time I have an interesting relationship with my period, which maybe a lot of people don't have, which every time I get it, I'm like, thank God, this is a blessing. I
love my period.
thankful.
I never complain.
I love my period. I'm like, this means that I can continue to have children as long as I want to have children.
And it's cleansing. Men don't get that other cleansing thing that women get. I'm like, no, this is why we last longer on earth, because we have other ways of getting stuff out.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question. How did it feel to get your period back after not having it? What was that feeling like?
I love that question. No one has ever asked me that. I woke up, we were actually at this wellness institute out in Florida called Hippocrates. So we were doing this like super intense, like wheatgrass, raw, cleanse. I'm not a raw foodie at all, but just for this 21-day period, it was amazing for, my health at the time. And I was still taking like, liver capsules and glandulars and everything. But anyway, the point is I woke up one morning and I went to the bathroom. The amazing part is there were no symptoms. I had no sign it was coming. I had nothing at all. I'm just like, I go to the bathroom and I look down and there's blood and I had forgotten what that even felt like, or, because I'd been on birth control in so long. I started screaming. I mean, I'm like crying. My husband comes in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had my period. And my aunt kept saying like, this day will come. It will come, because one of the first things to shut down is our reproductive system, because let's face it, we don't need it. It's for the next generation. And when we're not healthy, I think God is really smart. And I think that we naturally are going to kind of close off that part of us so that we can focus on healing our bodies. And then it will come back on when our body is healthy enough to grow a whole nother life. I mean, that's a crazy thing that we can do there. So my body was basically telling me, okay, like it's time. And so that was pretty awesome. It took about, oh gosh, I want to say my first cycle was like 60 days or something. I waited about 5 or 6 months to get like between a 28 and 32 day cycle. And then we stopped trying to not try and got pregnant like immediately.
And I have a question about Aunt Merle.
Marilee,
Is her name?
Marilee. Yeah.
Marilee. Okay. She sounds like a very special person. Definitely like my kind of person. You talked earlier about how so much of what she incorporated in your life was, okay, get these endocrine disruptors out of here. Let's focus on nutrition. But you mentioned something else, is the way that we kind of talk to ourselves. Was this a part of her plan? Is maybe the more like spiritual mindset part of things?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I think, everyone takes a different view on spirituality. For me, and how Marilee just ingrained this in our heads, is that, Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks, so he is. I think so much of how we present ourselves health-wise actually starts in our mind. If we think about the placebo effect and the power that it has, and you can actually see in brain scans, like neurotransmitters changing when people are taking a drug with inactive ingredients, believing that it's going to help something, things change in their body, right? So the way I like to think about it, for me as a believer, I think, wow, like the placebo effect is strong, but what if I actually put God in the center of that and he is the active ingredient? And I'm like, this is even stronger, right? So meditating on how our bodies are made and not really just thinking just confined by our senses, because I think that's just like the lie of the devil, is that like, we're going to have these symptoms because we're 50. Oh, it's that time of month, so you're going to be in pain. All of your friends can't get pregnant, so this will be your destiny. And we own it and we feed it, and it gets a stranglehold over our mind. And then all of a sudden we're operating out of fear because we've just joined and conformed to the world around us. And if you're spiritual, like you can rise above that, and you can actually, as you're taking your medication or a supplement or getting your procedure, at the same time, you're talking to yourself and you're owning this. I never say my Lyme disease. Even just saying that right now, my body's like, ugh. I say I've been diagnosed with Lyme, or something that I struggle with, or this thing that, I have, been diagnosed with, however I say it, but I never say my headache, my Lyme, my infertility, because I really think that that is a way that our bodies can start responding to this, lie that we're stuck in this forever.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you started off the podcast, you were saying, you were told you had PCOS since you were younger, and it's so easy for us to identify with that. Like, I'm the girl with PCOS. I'm the one that's infertile. I'm the one that has this or that issue. And it's so interesting. And this is something that I try to catch myself on, because for whatever reason, I feel like our brains are always, going towards fear, or like, I'm dealing with this, when it's like, how can you continue to be positive? Because I totally agree. It's like, you could do all the things. If you're super stressed out or you're thinking those negative thoughts, like that will negate so much of what you're doing. So I love that, Kay, you asked a question, you brought that up, Allison, of just like the importance of your mind. And you gave some examples, anything from when you remember, like as you were on your journey healing PCOS, any other thoughts that you remember that maybe your aunt was like, Allison, shift that, rephrase that, or certain phrases that you remember from back then?
I like that. A lot of what I just said is kind of what she was instilling in us. The main thing she wanted to get across is that our bodies know how to heal, right? And so for us to just go by our symptoms and go by the world around us, like that is natural as humans. Like that is our default, especially when we're living in pain and someone's trying to tell us, oh, but don't listen to that. That's a lie. It's like, no, this pain is very, very real. Okay. So we're not trying to be dumb or ignorant here, like I think we can acknowledge that. But at the same time, she would always say, this is not your story. This is not your destiny. This is a season for you. It is going to, through your pain right now, will be your gain. And so, and she kept saying to me, you will have your period. Don't say, oh, well, if I have to freeze my eggs or I need to think about how I may not be able to get pregnant. She's like, no, you will get pregnant. It is God's will for you to get pregnant. And that was another thing. I think a lot of times, even people that are spiritual are like, well, what if God put this on me? No, he didn't put this on you. I'll tell you what put this on you is we live in a fallen world and we humans are making really bad decisions every single day. And it's led to the fact that we have horrible pollution, but not only that, our homes are up to 100 times more polluted than the outdoor air. So we can't be blaming smokestacks and industry, like let's look at the power of the purse. How can we affect change instead of owning this story as if it's ours and kind of martyring ourselves as if this is our destiny? It's like, no. We have to step back. We have to know the science of epigenetics shows that even a small amount of a toxic ingredient can express or suppress genetic expression. Okay. So I think we need to take more ownership of our health instead of blaming and conforming to all the things around us. And that doesn't mean that we have to have shame or feel like this is about perfectionism. It's not. It's about progress. But even small inputs that can be changed can have extraordinary output, especially when it's in your daily life. And so just telling yourself like, gosh, instead of feeling overwhelmed that they say 90% of sickness and disease today comes from lifestyle choices. That can be overwhelming, right? But instead of being overwhelmed, we can flip the script and say, oh my gosh, there's hope. Because every other doctor I saw before Marilee said, oh, what did your grandfather and your mom and your uncle struggle with? Well, what the hell am I supposed to do with that information? Like, I'm not a victim of my genes. So genetics loads the gun, but I pull the trigger. My choices pull the trigger. And that is actually a message of hope.
I love that. Yeah, that's really powerful. I want to kind of now, so at a certain point, you guys decided you're going to build Branch Basics, which by the way, I love. I've been using for 8 years. I don't know. When did you guys start?
Yeah,
I literally started
honestly, the first iteration was 15 years ago. We shut down the whole company in 2016 because we were private labeling and we created our own formula and launched in 2016. So
amazing. Well, I use it all the time. My favorite, it's all my favorite, but the Oxy.
The Oxygen Boost is legit.
Boost.
Yes.
Oh, especially if you have kids.
For kids.
It's so good.
I don't know how parents do without this stuff. The blowout and the throw up and like.
Oh my gosh, everything would be ruined. So I love your brand, and I want to walk through essentially the early years of that when you guys decided to create that brand, and also like you said, switching out the ingredients in your home is one small step that can make a huge impact, right? So walk us through what was like the light bulb moment. We're going to do this.
Yeah, honestly, we had no choice. I was in the pits. I moved out to Marilee's home and she was like, okay, without saying this is basically what she meant. I'm the busiest person you know. I am consulting with clients from West Coast to East Coast. If you're here, you're going to take this seriously. You will not have a bite to eat outside of what I'm giving you. You will divorce yourself from your perfumes, your toxic deodorants, your tampons that are now, scented these days. It's wild. All these little things, the scented candles, never being outside barefoot, these things that really seem so simple, getting sunlight on our eyes without slathering ourselves in sunblock before going outside every morning. She's like, we're going to do this. If we're going to devote 8 weeks to this, like we're doing it. And so that was really the light bulb moment, was her saying, hey, Allison, like kind of sniffing my shirt. She was like, we're going to actually have to put your clothes outside and air them out in the sun. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even smell the detergent on my clothes. Guys, it was not a week later. I had gotten just basic cotton t-shirts. We washed them in this mild detergent, which is basically an iteration of our formula today. And I went back to smell the clothes that I had been wearing my whole life with whatever it was, Bounce or Direct, whatever. I could hardly smell it without getting a headache. And it's the same idea. You smoke your whole life, and then, I mean, I don't think any of y'all know this, but I hear this. And then you can't be around anyone that smokes. It's like it's like abhorrent to you. And so again, our bodies are so masked because all of these toxins that we use every day are just coursing through our veins. But the beautiful part about our bodies is we're always wanting to reach that level of homeostasis. So when you remove that toxic input, our body is naturally going to start dumping these chemicals. But if you're continuing to, expose your body, then it's just going to maladapt to these toxins to the point that you're literally desensitized. So, that was really my moment it was basically hitting rock bottom and saying, Marilee, take the wheel. I surrender. All these crazy things you're talking about, I'll give it a try. And all of a sudden, I'm on no drugs in a few weeks.
Insane. And it's so true what you were saying about how your body adapts. Like, I used to love candles. Like, I miss candles. I miss actually perfume too. And now when I'm around a scented candle, I'll go to a friend's house, I do get a headache. And I always wondered, like, how did I used to live? I used to put candles on every single day, but it is amazing in a positive way, to your point, that your body does adapt. Like, once you kind of adjust and you're not around toxins as much, like, I get headaches now when I'm around it, but I always was curious, like, how did I used to live before? But so you mentioned something that, it might feel overwhelming, but I think you said it in a way of hope, because there's so much to do. It's not just genetics. You're like, people think outside is toxic. Inside is where there's so much. So if someone's listening, they're like, Allison, where do I start? Clearly you have branch basics, right? So there's so much to talk about, but what are maybe 1 of 5 things that you would say are the most toxic aspects inside your home that somebody should think about swapping?
Yeah, no, I love that. Again, it's not about adding. I mean, if anyone has any takeaway here, I send Branch Basics out to people all the time for free. I meet someone at a stoplight. I get their address. I'm like, please do not receive this product and think this is your ticket to health. I would rather you never use Branch Basics and remove all the toxic alternatives and use some vinegar and water, because that's really where the healing begins. It is removing the obstacles to healing, and then it's adding on layers that can really help usher in the detoxification and blah, 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 blah. So hear that message, because I think people think, oh my gosh, I can't afford this new treatment plan or this functional medicine doctor or this sauna or this cleanse or blah, blah, blah. No, just, even taking the synthetic fragrances out of our house, your entire family just got a liver cleanse and no one even changed their diet. Now, you probably still need to change your diet, but I'm just saying, let's remove the main culprits, the toxic food dyes, the, stuff like that. And then let's talk about adding on things instead of just feeling like, oh my gosh, I've got to just add a bunch of stuff. So number one thing is pesticides. We don't talk about this enough. They are in everything from our disinfectant, which has an EPA registered pesticide in it, unless it's an alcohol-based disinfectant, all the way to, if you live in the South, you have mosquito misters all around your house. I'm looking at 2 neighbors that have them right there. And, lice shampoo, mildewicides, chlorine, Clorox, things like that. Like, these have harsh pesticides in them. Pesticides are designed to kill. That's literally what it means. So acide means to kill. So, they attack our fat dense areas, which the densest fat is our brain, which is why they're directly linked to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative diseases. So getting those pesticides out is huge. And you can't smell them or taste them or see them. And sometimes people are like, well, the guy just comes quarterly and sprays the baseboards. It can't be that bad. It is that bad. It is that bad, because they have a long half-life and they are creating a chemical soup in your indoor air, and your air directly impacts your health. And so taking that toxic load off of your house, off of your entire, home's air, is enabling your body to be freed up to start healing the deeper things instead of detoxifying every day this air. So yeah, pesticides, number 1. And then number 2 would be synthetic fragrances. So fragrance is the new F word. That's what we like to say. It's secondhand smoke. And so it's not just you that you're affecting with your perfume, but, sadly, the more you research it, the more you realize, like, it really, really is undermining our health. And we are dealing with so many endocrine issues, from amenorrhea to 6-year-old girls getting their period and breastbudding and pubic hair. I'm dealing with 3 different families right now who are in that realm. And what they're doing one family, this is a perfect example. Their 6-year-old daughter had pubic hair. She buys only Range Basics, organic food, uses organic mattresses, air purifier. She's like, what am I doing wrong? I was like, does she have any synthetic fragrance in her room? She's like, well, I don't buy it, but like, the party favors and like bath bombs, like the teachers give them out, like smelly bookmarks. The shoes sometimes have them in it now. So she goes and she sends me a picture. She literally had an entire trash bag of stuff that was in her daughter's room of scented. Her doll was scented. Her everything, all these things that she never even realized. And within 3 weeks, all of her pubic hair fell out. Her 6-year-old.
No way. Wow.
Completely reversed. And she had been to the top endocrine doctors here in Houston. They'd done these hormone panels. The doctor said, oh, well, sometimes this happens. It's becoming more common, And so again, it's that narrative of just because it's, common doesn't mean it's normal. So I would say pesticides, synthetic fragrances, that includes your laundry room, because whatever you are laundering your clothes in is coursing through your veins. You don't escape it. It's on your pillowcase. It's on your washcloth when you're naked in the shower. It's on your clothes all day. I mean, you are your laundry. So I would say those changes alone, if those are made, your health, the health of your home has significantly increased.
I'd love for you to share. One of the biggest arguments that I hear from a lot of my friends is that the more natural products, as they say, don't work as well. So like you need the Clorox, you need the toothpaste with the crazy mint and the fluoride, you need all these things, the deodorant that smells like crazy and the soap. And they say, oh, well, you're not actually getting clean if you don't use those things. And it drives me crazy. And I would love to, I feel like you would give the perfect response to that. Can you please share what you would say to somebody in that situation?
I love that question. These are like my favorite questions. I don't know. This is wild. But what I will say to that, even from like taking a peek behind the curtains on the manufacturing side of creating a cleaning product, those smells are not where the cleaning comes from. So we have been, I wouldn't say lied to. I think we have just been conditioned over time to relate a home that has just been cleaned and has this strong kind of clean smell with, oh my gosh, my home is now safe and clean for my family, when actually it's the exact opposite. After a home has been cleaned, studies show it's up to 1,000 times more toxic than it was before, which is unreal. So we shouldn't be able to smell clean. Clean doesn't smell, right? And it's the same idea with like disinfectants, which kill bacteria, germs, and viruses, versus soap or a gentle surfactant like a Range Basics, which removes bacteria, germs, and viruses. So if you look at the disinfectant, you're never able to kill 100%, right? So you kill 99%. And what's left behind? Okay. The 1% that's left behind are the strongest and the most dangerous of the germs and viruses and bacteria that will then replicate and create superbugs that leave us antibiotic resistant. Okay. Because when you disinfect, you're taking away the good and the bad bacteria. Now, on the other hand, when you say no to the disinfectants and sanitizers, and you believe, because you've studied this now and you're not just kind of believing what you grew up with, removing bacteria, germs, and viruses is way more effective, because you're actually only taking away the bad bacteria, but the good bacteria can still survive. And so that's actually building up your immune system. So when you are in contact with a, virus or a bacteria that someone has, like you have enough strength in your microbiome to actually fight that. So the irony is that we're bringing in all these toxic products into our home to create a safe environment, when actually it leaves us more vulnerable to sickness. My family almost never gets sick. And when we do, it's great because we're exercising our immune system and we're never sick for more than a couple of days, but I worked with so many families who can't figure out why their kids are always sick. And it's usually the families that are disinfecting every single day.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, I don't have kids yet, but I'm like, there's definitely seasons where I feel like kids are always sick. There's something going on. It's just interesting to get your perspective around that. I love it. I feel like I would love to do like a fire round of questions. I feel like Kay and I probably have so many. I'm like, what is she cooking? How does she clean her fruits and vegetables? So like, I'm just curious, like, what are you cooking? How do you clean your fruits and vegetables? Like, I would love to just ask some more lifestyle things.
Things like, what are you cooking? that's kind of where you're blending the idea of removal and adding, because that can get expensive to invest in new cookware. Okay, so maybe it's not like the low hanging fruit, but if you are regularly daily using a Teflon pan, that is absolutely contributing to that toxic body burden, right? So stainless steel, ceramic. I mean, there's so many amazing options. Just investing in one thing and make that one pot or pan maybe a skillet, because that's the thing that you're using, the Teflon with every single day. And guys, I don't even notice the nonstick thing. Like if you're using a good quality stainless steel, or like we have like one Le Creuset thing. I mean, you just maybe a little more elbow grease. Like our oxygen boost does wonders, but I haven't used Teflon in years and I don't miss it. And you just kind of adjust to stuff like that. As far as fruits and vegetables, we use Branch Basics because it's the best at removing. I personally don't think you really need to use anything more than water if you're buying organic, but if you're buying conventional produce, spraying with Branch Basics and letting it sit, letting those enzymes really work, and then rinsing it clean, can make a world of difference for pesticide residue.
What about makeup? What kind of makeup or like cosmetics and stuff are you using?
We actually have a blog post on our website. We have just like tons of free information. And we had a few people on our team devote months looking up every single ingredient. Because here's the thing, this makes it tricky. You can't be like a name X brand. I don't want to like name a brand. Ilia is great. Okay. But I would not say every single product in Ilia is perfect. Okay. So what we like to do, if you're really interested in something that you're using, and again, start with the things you use every single day, your foundation, your mascara, your concealer, your lip balm, whatever it is, and look at the ingredients, start with the very last ingredient and go to the EWG database and put in that last ingredient, because it's those last ingredients that are usually the most toxic, those preservatives. And what did we just talk about? The idea of epigenetics. So the small amounts that can actually make the big difference. So looking at your daily use items, and if it scores like, a D, E, F, or if I think the scale is like 0 to 10 on, one of them's Think Dirty and one of them's EWG.
Yeah, I think EWG is 0 to 10. Or they also have letters too, but both.
Yeah. But basically you want everything to score a 1 or a 2 or have like an A rating. And if even it's just that one ingredient is an F, a lot of times those databases will give it a pass because you're averaging out ingredients between the entire product. We do not go by that system. We would rather you have, and the nice thing, there are so many great alternatives that do not have any Fs or Ds, So we have a great list on our website that's like, I think, favorite non-toxic makeup. So we do a lot of Ilia. We do a lot of Toups & Co. TOUPS. Toups & Co. is what I wear every single day. Super clean.
One thing that I noticed that you said in a different interview that actually reminded me a lot of what Yasmin and I do, and there were a lot of parallels there, is that you said Branch Basics is as much an education company, like you are providing education as you are selling a product. And I love that. I think education is so critical. Even Yasmin and I are the same way. We'll meet someone, we're like, you should try seed cycling for your really bad periods, but like you don't have to get it from us. Go to the store. We're always offering a million different ideas for people, and helping people is the ultimate goal. I want to talk about how you got to that standpoint and the content creation aspect of your company, why that's so important to you. How do you guys fit that into your day-to-day?
No, honestly, Yasmin, this is why I remember falling in love with you after our podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, she gets it. There's another company out there. And there are, a handful of us, but that really are putting education first. And from a business standpoint, I mean, here's a little secret. When you do that, you sell more product, So it's not like we're just like, over here not making money. I mean, people, when you put people first inside of products, like you're always going to end up on top, because it shows. And every time people talk to us, they're like, oh, wait, you do care. You are the real deal, because that's how we started. We always say we never set out to sell soap. We didn't know what we were doing. We made so many stupid business mistakes. It would have honestly been so dumb for us to start a company with no business background, without the passion that we have that really led us through all those valleys. So if you're out there and you've started a company or you're thinking about starting a company, like find your passion, because unless money is just such a big driver for you, which that's fine. If it is, it is. But when you start a family and other things creep in, it's not what's ultimately going to keep you in the game, is what I've experienced. So because I'd experienced in my body this amazing transformation, and Kelly had experienced her own transformation, like her story wasn't as drastic as me. It was like itchy eyes, horrible cramps every month, dry skin. What else did she have? She dealt with like warts on her foot, hope she doesn't mind me sharing that. But like these things just disappeared. Like she left Marilee's home that summer, and she never knew when she was going to have her period. It just like all of her symptoms, all these things, body odor. She doesn't even wear deodorant anymore. We think that these things are normal. How many times have I said that? So yeah, we just wanted a megaphone in a mountain. And this was back when Facebook, it was like the heyday of Facebook. And I think my mom and like her best friend were the only ones that read our blog, but we were blogging. Like we were like, this is how we're going to get our message out there. Our sorority sister friends thought we were insane. But we just kept chugging along. We're like, people need to know about this. And Marilee always said, we started this company to prevent people from one day saying, why didn't somebody tell me this? Because it's not hard. It's not hard. Being sick is hard, and removing things and getting back to basics and, getting sunlight on our eyes, opening our windows, getting barefoot in the grass, using soap to clean. I mean, the FDA is even now saying regular soap and water is actually more effective at removing germs than disinfectants. So it's like the world, I think, is waking up and realizing that we have done things, man has come in. And when we just trust man, I mean, we used to sell cocaine and heroin as an over-the-counter drug. We used to use x-rays as shoe fitting devices. We used to prescribe drugs for morning sickness that created an entire generation of, babies that many of them were deformed. We can't rely on what science says is right for our time. We have to do our own research and have discernment, especially if we're moms. Like Europe is over there laughing at us because they're able to get color in their candy without using food dyes, and we've harmed enough people over here and we've done enough studies. And so we're now taking it out. But as a mom, like I can't afford for science to dictate, when I change my kids' diet. So anyway, that was kind of a soapbox that I got on, but
No, we're super passionate about that too. And I feel like you mentioned this, like once you feel a transformation, you feel like I have to share my story. Like the fact that I thought for so long that birth control was the only option and that's what doctors said. And I was literally able to have a normal period. Like you said, you just were like, wait, I got my period. I didn't even have any symptoms. Like that would have saved me decades of my life. So when you feel a transformation, it really drives you to share the story. And similar to, how you're talking about branch basics, it's also like a lifestyle thing. It's not like, oh, get my products, right? It's like we care about the totality of the human because that's a lifestyle we live. So it's like, get our product, don't get our product. That's one element of everything. So, and it's also fun to educate people. So I love that. It's so funny. We had someone, I mean, this is like another layer and very crunchy, but we had someone come and check like EMF in our condo for things. And he was asking me questions. I know. I'm like, that's like probably, I've been following your home renovation journey online. And I'm like,
black rooms.
Yeah, honestly, he was telling us all these things and we're like renting in a condo and my husband's like, maybe we do it. I'm like, are we going to be here forever? But yes, like, and it was funny. He was telling me, I don't know what he asked.
Yeah, I'd wait for your real home.
Yeah. I know. That's what we're like. We'll just do good enough for now. It's fine. But he asked me something and I was like, oh yeah, it was from the Branch Basics blog. Like I really trust you guys. Like the trust is there. And he, he's this older guy. He had no clue. And I was like, I trust that this specific product is like good enough. I forgot what it was, but you guys, long way of saying you guys do such a great job with like education and all your blogs.
Thank you. It's all Marilee. We always said we want to put Marilee's brain on the internet. That's what we're trying to do.
Done such a good job. And I love how more recently on social, I think people have been asking like, what are you wearing? What do you like putting on? And you guys have been showing up also with like clothes. I'm like, this is great.
I know. So I'm like, and people are like, you should do a like to know it. I'm like, no. No. First of all, most of my closet is like 5 years old. There's no links. Like, I'm not that cool.
I know. And it's crazy. Your name, And Branch Basics as a resource has come up so much recently in the past few weeks of just us giving advice to people who are having kids, like creating a nursery. Or I even remember somebody was asking about wipes, and I was like, well, Allison said you can use Branch Basics instead of a wet wipe. You can use a dry wipe. And so we've been learning so much for you, especially when it comes to our kiddos, because that is like something, we got to protect them, right? We are their protectors. We set the stage. I can't control what goes on in their school, but I can control what happens in the home. And I am the person that it's tough. We go to friend's house and I see a bunch of scented candles around and air fresheners. And I'm like, when are we close enough that I can just throw all this shit in the trash for you?
But I love that
it's
you brought
very
that
hard,
up,
but
because fear is toxic too, and sometimes it's just as toxic as the thing we're trying to avoid. And so it's never about fear. It's about empowerment. And when we create a healthy home, the running start that we're giving our family is so significant that when they do face the Glade plugins and the pesticides sprayed at school and whatever crap they may sneak in their mouth, it's just not as big of a deal, because they're coming home to a house where their parents have created a safe environment for them, and their bodies are able to naturally restore and rest and detoxify the way that they were created to do. So we control what we can. We aim for progress, not perfection, and we let everything else go.
I love that. I really love it, because it can feel scary, especially when it comes to toxins. It feels very out of control. There's so much in the environment that we don't have control over. So I like that hopeful message. I know we're coming to the end, but I would love for anyone who's listening, any plans for Branch Basics in the future, things you're excited about, things that you're open to sharing. What is the goal?
Yeah. So we launched in Target last April, and that has gone swimmingly. It's been really fun. Yeah. We're like number one within natural cleaning and like month over month, which has been awesome. And we waited a long time for this. I mean, to be honest, this was never one of our we just got to get into Target. But Target's been amazing to work with. They have such a wonderful, huge platform. And so it's really about our message being heard, further and wider. And so saying no to so much, building our community, building our message, really gaining traction direct to consumer, and saying no has honestly been the hardest thing, because you have opportunities come up and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Let's do this. Let's do that. I mean, thankfully we have a CEO and CFO who are like tethering us three ladies, and they're like, no, we're not ready for that. So we waited a long time for this. So that's been really fun. So we are expanding into all stores by next year, which will be great. So you'll be able to find it at all stores. Right now, we're just in about 690. We'll be in all 1,900. So there's that. And we're working on some fun new products, R&D, things that I think people will be really excited about, daily use items that'll just make it easier to toss the toxins. We did actually, speaking of Toss the Toxins, make our online Toss the Toxins course free. So it used to be, I think it was nominal, $50 or something, which honestly, the amount of information that, if taken seriously, could truly change someone's life, it's invaluable. Kelly and Marilee and I take people through, there's 12 different modules, and you can start anywhere you want. You can start with food storage. You can start with air or water purification. You can start with your thought life. I mean, all the ways that these toxins kind of get into our system, and then how to remove them, how to replace them. We have this great resource list. So anyone that wants to get more serious, that's a really great place to start.
Amazing. And if anyone's curious, Allison and I did a podcast last year. We went deep dive into the business. I know we talked about it a little bit, but you can go back and we'll include all of that in the show notes too if people are curious. But Allison, it's always so fun to see you. You're such a bright light, always wealth of knowledge. I always get so inspired after hearing any conversation and any podcast you're on. So fun having you today. Thank you.
It means so much. What y'all are doing is so amazing and important. And I just think that, more and more people need to be talking about it. I do. I tell people about y'all all the time. So I'm really honored to be here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I didn't know that you guys were in Target. So now I can tell my friends when they ask, go to Target and you can get that.
And Target online as well. So we sell ready to use 16-ounce bottles. They're so cute. They're a little bit smaller. And like I said, they're ready to use plastic. If you want glass, that's online only. And then of course our concentrate comes in a little mini bottle as well. So it makes it really user friendly. It's under a $5 price point, which is, has been great. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Allison.